Good afternoon and welcome to Liquid Lunch with the Regional Water Authority here on 103.5 WNHH, anytime on video on the New Haven Independence YouTube page or anywhere you get your podcasts, especially Apple and Spotify. I am Kevin Watsy. I'm the host of Liquid Lunch. I am the Director of Public Affairs at the Regional Water Authority, and more importantly, I am a water nerd. Sometimes we talk about water. Today, we may or may not talk about water. Today, we're going to talk about Milford. I am thrilled and honored to have as my guest today the 12th mayor of Milford. He was elected mayor in November of 23. His name is Anthony Giannattasio, and he's going to tell us all of the wonderful things that are going on in Milford. He's going to teach me some things about Milford and about local government there, and we're just going to have a really good conversation. So, Mayor, welcome to the show. I like to begin our shows by asking our guests to tell us your story. So, if you could tell us your origin story, where'd you grow up? What led you into public life? All the good stuff.
Well, thank you, Kevin. It's truly a pleasure to be here. I did grow up in Milford. I went to school in Milford. I was educated through the public school system. I graduated from Foreign High School. And my background really is growing up in Milford. I was really fortunate to have two parents that were entrepreneurs. They started their own businesses. My father started Milford Barrel Company out of Milford, literally out of our house. And my mother was a hairdresser, and she started working literally out of our house. And those businesses flourished, and they moved on. And grew up in a family of people that really believed in taking risks, and, the spirit of owning your own business, hiring people, putting people to work, and, truly servicing, the public, their customers. So that's, my background. So I grew up in my father's family business until I got elected mayor. The mayor is a full-time position in Milford, as you know. And up until that point, I really got involved in politics. I don't come from a political family. I just got involved in politics purely by accident. I just was interested in learning more about the political process and local government. Being in Milford, being that my parents had businesses in Milford, I got to know a lot of the people in the community that were involved in government and nonprofits. So I decided to volunteer. I was a member on the local town committee. I helped out with local elections. The person that I was helping out at the time was Mayor Riccitelli, putting out signs, very basic things. And I was lucky enough to be asked to volunteer on a board. The mayor has the ability to appoint people to boards and commissions. And from there was an opportunity to run for planning and zoning, which is an elected seat. And I just, kind of grew with it. And I served on the Planning and Zoning Board for 4 years. And I really enjoyed my time there. That's a board that's driven by regulations.
Yep. It's a tough board.
It is a tough board.
Yeah.
It's a board. It's a free education, as I put it. And I really enjoyed it. Milford being a shoreline community, it was a board that was very challenging. Also, from that point on, there was an opening on our Board of Aldermen. Milford has the Board of Aldermen. Some municipalities call it the City Council.
Right.
We have 15 aldermen that represent all 5 districts. There's 3 alders in each district. And I served on the Board of Aldermen for 16 years.
Oh, wow.
And I served with Mayor Riccitelli for the last 4 years of his tenure, which was 2 terms. And then I continued to serve, and I enjoyed doing it. And I actually served with 3 mayors through my experience on the Board of Aldermen, and I rose to becoming minority leader on the board. So I learned how to debate. I learned how to solve problems. I learned about the budget. I learned about the fire department, the police department, public works department. I had the experience going into the election of working with all of these department heads. It was kind of like my father's family business. I started from the bottom, and I just slowly, learned and was able to continue in a higher position of service. And it's been truly great experience coming from the private sector, growing up in a family business, to serve as mayor, the 12th mayor of Milford, which was founded in 1639. There's so much history.
So that's amazing, right? 1639. That's 300. It's almost 400 years. That's what, 390 years. 12 mayors in 390 years.
So in the beginning, it was a little bit different. There was, other people serving as managers and things like that. But then I think when you get to a certain point of population, we have 55,000 people.
Is it that big, really? Interesting.
Yeah. And it's growing. It's growing.
Yeah, Milford's a great town. So that your father started a barrel company.
Yes.
So am I to assume that means like whiskey barrels, that kind of barrels? Or for my audience who listens to this, they know I'm not from Connecticut, so I will ask questions that everybody may be laughing at me right now. But
so my dad got into a very unique business. He's a steel drum reconditioner. Our family business, we're steel drum reconditioners by trade. So it's oil drums that we recycle, recondition to repurpose. So it's a green business.
So like the oil drums that I would pull out of the ground at my house, or like you're talking big.
I'm talking about a 55-gallon drum. When you see that drums, the barrel of oil is being traded on the market.
Okay, gotcha.
They refer to it as how much is oil a barrel. It's literally
those barrels. Yeah. Exactly. So when you're reconditioning them for use as oil barrels again,
correct.
Not for like making them all bougie and like they do with the container, the containers off the ship that you can swim in now.
Yeah, no. This is specific to people that are filling. They bring in bulk oil off of a tanker and they fill drums of hydraulic oil, motor oil, cutting oil that is sold out into the market for kinds of different uses.
Sounds like your father recognized the need and he kind of invented a business around that need for himself. That's awesome. That's like the American story. Right?
Yeah, everyone has a story, and that's what's so interesting.
And that's why I ask people to tell us their story, because you never know. And I've been doing government affairs and politics now 25 years, and I think your path to me is like the perfect path, right? Because you were in the private business, private industry. You understand what small businesses go through to be successful. You understand that side of it. But then you also worked your way up through the political side of it, which, I would say, like, after seeing everything you saw from the planning board and then as an alderman, like, why would you want to be mayor? But no, I mean, that it seems like you have that experience from both sides that at least I want in my elected officials. So you and I both kind of joked, and I'll go into more of the questions I wrote, but we kind of joked that planning and zoning is very difficult. I know why I think it's difficult. Why would you say planning and zoning board is very difficult?
At this moment in time, specifically, there's a lot of state regulations. And as you can see, there's been an influx of affordable apartments being built, which is designed through the 830-G state statute, which allows for more density. The people that grew up in Milford, that know Milford for being a smaller city, are having a hard time adjusting to density. We are growing, as I indicated, and there's certain zones that allow for more density. So we're actually seeing almost like an urban renewal. So there's properties on bus lines down by the train station, which allow for more density. So there's developers that obviously are taking advantage of that market, and we're seeing a lot of apartments being built throughout the city.
And it's really, planning and zoning, in my experience, you also deal with the folks who, the not in my backyard folks, you have a new business wanting to come in, it's going to add to the tax rolls, but people don't want it in their backyard. So, people get up in arms about that kind of stuff. Or like you said, the state is mandating you do certain things. You don't have a choice, but again, people want it over here, not over there. And so you have to balance all of these different, interests for the betterment of the community.
Right. And you
It's
have to
tough.
find the common ground in these developments. You want developments that are architecturally pleasing. You want developments that, mirror certain zones. You want to do it respectfully. And we've been really fortunate. We have great developers that work in Milford, and they do great work. They do nice work, and there's amenities along with some of these developments that really, make it a whole better lifestyle.
Mm. So let's talk about your role as mayor. So, in Connecticut, again, I'm newer to Connecticut. Connecticut has first selectman, and they have mayor. So you're a full-time mayor. So what is it in your role as mayor that you do that maybe a first selectman doesn't do? And just kind of talk. I think I found in my career, people don't have a proper appreciation for their local government and what it takes to run a local government. So if you could kind of talk about your role as mayor, but then kind of walk through some of the things that you're doing on a daily basis that people may not know you're doing, because I happen to think mayor is the toughest elected position out there because everybody knows where you live, right? The garbage doesn't get picked up, you're getting a call. The street's not plowed, you're getting a call. They're not calling their U.S. senator. They're not calling their state senator. They're calling the mayor. They're calling the first selectman. So talk a little bit about your role and what your day looks like.
I think every mayor is different. What I enjoy mostly about being mayor is you could really put your personality forward. So I look approving upon things that are already there. For an example, I'm working on a miniature golf course. We don't have any miniature golf in the city. When I was growing up, we probably had 2 to 3 miniature golf courses. For some reason, we don't have any at this point. We have this great Eisenhower Park. We have a public golf course on North Street. So I just thought that it would be a great enhancement to have miniature golf for the kids, for the community. We have splash pad already existing there. We have pickleball courts, and it's kind of like just adding more value to that area. And it's a great fit, and people are really looking forward to it. So that's one of the things that makes me excited is things like that, projects. We also own some city property that I want to put out for lease. I don't want to sell it down at the harbor. I'm looking for a developer. It's going to go out for RFP to build out an oyster bar. We have an oyster festival, but we don't have an oyster bar. So these are like the fun things of being the mayor. You can think outside the box, and you can work with economic development. You could work with parks and recreation, and you can find these things that people want, and it just enhances the overall lifestyle of the people that live in Milford. And people always say to me, there's so much to do in Milford. And you yourself today shared with me that you frequent Milford. You visit Milford.
I do.
And these things that I'm talking about also generate revenue. This miniature golf course would be a revenue generator for the city. We have these things called enterprise funds, and we use it for our public golf course. And the money goes back into the city. It goes back to the golf course. And it enables us to do other projects. We have a harbor in our downtown, and the harbor is another enterprise fund. We have people that come over from Long Island and park their boats, and they pay by the foot, they pay by the day, and we lease out dock space. So we have the ability to do these things and add on to what we're already doing just to enhance the experience for the residents that live there and for the people that visit. Those are some examples of being the mayor. It's those special projects that you want to put forward. Being the mayor is also, working on the budget, in which I'm doing right now. That's the process that I'm in right now is putting forward a budget for the city side and working with department heads on their needs and what their priorities are, dealing with appropriately funding these departments.
Right.
I mean, we have a great public works department. We're one of the very few municipalities left that actually picks up our own trash. We have a sanitation department. Most cities and towns will put that out for RFP.
Yep.
They'll have a private hauler do that. We do that in house, and we're very good at it. We have a transfer station. We have sewer treatment plants. We have a whole host of things. We have the great fire department. We have a Class A fire department. The fire department just got an award from Yale. Our response times, we do all of our own EMS calls,
Okay.
and our response times are incredible. I can't thank the people at the fire department enough for doing that.
And your fire department just won a grant from the Water Authority too, late last year.
Yeah, exactly. And our police department is excellent. People feel safe in Milford. I'm putting forward policies as a mayor. We're able to put policies forward. I put before a public safety policy. I created a street takeover ordinance. If somebody comes into Milford and there's a street takeover, we could fine them up to $2,500 and take possession of their vehicle as a deterrent. That was never being done before.
That's the key, taking possession of the vehicle. And we have the RWA, we own about 28,000 acres of watershed property, and illegal ATVs is our biggest problem out there. And right now, there's really no deterrent except for a fine, and that's if you can catch them.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we've talked internally. Being able to confiscate those vehicles, whether it's an ATV or a car, to me is the biggest deterrent.
So the ability as being mayor to work with the police chief to put these policies forward, get them approved by the Board of Aldermen, speaks volumes to me. And that's really the fulfillment that I get. It's even with cameras now. We're in the process of putting speed cameras, red light cameras to control behavior, to make our city safer, and also as a deterrent, because we're going to put license plate readers. Milford is centrally located between Bridgeport and New Haven, and we have a mall, and we noticed that people are coming in with stolen cars, committing crimes, shoplifting, things like that, or stealing cars. And in real time with these LPR readers, our police department is going to know that that's a stolen plate.
Oh, wow.
And they're going to be able to apprehend these people. So, and that's going to eliminate, hopefully, the next crime that they're there to commit, because they're coming in with a stolen vehicle. And it's those things. Working with my health director, putting forward a prohibition on vape shops. And I did this all within the first year. I've only been mayor just over a year.
That's right. Yeah.
And we did a prohibition on that for prevention. We don't want any more vape shops. It's not the best use of the property in some cases. We're not restricting access, but we just don't.
You just said we have enough.
We have an overflow, and we have a lot of youth in our city, and some of these products aren't the best for our youth, to get involved with. We want to, limit that.
So are the speed cameras, are they definitely coming, or is that still a proposal?
Well, they're coming.
It
was approved by the police commission. Then it went to the Board of Aldermen. It was approved. We held a public hearing to get the input from the public. I think it's going to make a world of a difference.
I imagine that's just on certain streets, like certain sections of certain streets.
In the beginning, there's priorities that we have to address, and on the Post Road by the mall is one of them. It's very active. It's heavily trafficked. And, we want to make sure that people recognize it. It's going to be posted. Our police, will still there'll be a police presence, but I think the cameras just remind people. It's a reminder of them.
Yeah. It's just, I got nabbed by a speed camera in Washington, D.C. once, and had no clue until that ticket showed up in the mail a couple of weeks later. And then my wife yelled at me. It was a whole thing. But yeah, I agree. It cuts down. It makes people think about their own safety, other people's safety, because a lot of people are idiots out there. They drive, and I will say I've lived in New York and New Jersey over the past few years. One thing I've noticed in Connecticut, this is not a Milford thing, but I have seen more people go through red lights since moving to Connecticut than I have ever seen in my life. My wife and I marvel that we'll be sitting there, our light will turn green, and you just see 2 or 3 cars fly through that red and the other way. And so, yeah, anything we could do to make things a little bit safer, I'm all for it. But I just marvel at how many people fly through red lights in Connecticut.
A lot of other things about being mayor is having the ability to problem solve in real time, because things happen, unexpectedly, and you have to address things. Whether it's a storm, had a lot of flood warnings in Milford because we're a shoreline community. Things like that, put people on notice, make sure that they put in their cars, things to hire ground.
So you probably go in every day thinking you know what you're going to deal with, but never really knowing what's going to pop up.
Things do pop up, but I'm pretty rigorous with my schedule.
Yeah.
I like to, stick to my calendar, and it's a great community. There's always events going on, which I truly enjoy. I really dove into you learn so much. You think you know, but you don't know what you don't know.
Right. Yeah.
And these people share their stories, their struggles. And it's, like I said, it's a great experience. It's a great education. I would recommend it to anyone that has the ability to, get involved on a very local level. And my story is, there was never a plan to become, it just happened purely.
Which is the best way.
And I think it makes it more special, and I think it resonates with people because there's different types of people in this political environment, how they handle themselves, how they handle situations. Milford's always been first. Milford's a great city. It's very bipartisan. There's a lot of spirit. So I'm lucky because when I meet other mayors, they almost come up to me. Wow, Milford? I wish I was the mayor of Milford. It's a great place.
Yeah, it is a great
I'm
place.
I'm a proud mayor, and I want to really, make things better for people that live there. I want people to have a great experience when they visit there.
Yeah, it is a cool town, and as I've driven through Milford, 2 of the most beautiful trees I've ever seen in my life are in Milford, and I'm struggling to remember what they are or where they are, but I know how to get to them both.
Okay.
And when I was talking to your tree warden about this, Steve, I mentioned the one tree, and he told me it actually won the Tree of the Year award a bunch of years
Steve
ago.
Johnson?
Yeah, it was Steve Johnson was telling me that the one tree that I just drove by one day, he said that tree won Tree of the Year a few years ago. So I was not off in my appreciation for it.
Steve Johnson is someone that I depend on. He's a great asset to me. He does so much, not just with trees, but storm resiliency projects. He's a wealth of information.
Yes. And we worked with Steve last year. You may recall we planted a bunch of new trees in Milford. For our listeners, the RWA has an Arbor Day program where we pick a couple of our towns each year and we go plant between 6 and 10 trees. We coordinate it with the town. We have our employees go out and we plant some trees, and Milford was one of our towns last year.
You did it. You were planting down by the duck pond.
Yes, because I think Steve wants to turn that into like a mini arboretum.
Yeah.
So we picked a couple of different varieties of pine, I believe it was. But that was a fun event. Our employees had a lot of fun. It was a beautiful area too, with the bridge and everything. It's beautiful. So you mentioned, I'm gonna go into events a little bit.
Sure.
You had talked about the clam festival? Oyster Festival. So
yeah.
Let's talk about the Oyster Festival, but I also want to talk about any other kind of big events that go on throughout the year in Milford. When I get, municipal executives here, I love for them to just talk about all the cool things going on in the town. So let's talk about the Oyster Fest first.
So the Oyster Festival, we actually just had our 50th Oyster Festival last summer. It was 50 years. So we did a big music venue. They got different genres of music because it was a 50-year celebration. Our oyster festival has a little bit of everything. It's got music. It's has great food, great oysters. I believe it was about 30,000 oysters we purchased from Briar Patch, which is a local business in Milford. We have rides for the kids. We have the whole green, the historic green. The top of the green was all arts and crafts. So there's so many different things going on all at one time. We have a car show.
Love a car show. Is that a 1 day thing, or is that like over a weekend?
It's over a weekend. We started with Oyster Eve, which is Friday night.
Oyster Eve. Love that.
they added that in, which is a great success, which I truly enjoy Oyster Eve as well. It's a lot of the local people. And then come Oyster Festival the next day, it's, you get the big crowds. I mean, people take the train. Think about this. To Milford from Fairfield or wherever, from New Haven, end up in Milford. They walk out of the train station. They're downtown. They're on the green. They're in the Oyster Fest.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So you have to keep that in mind, because that just draws people. They don't have to drive. And then we have off-site parking. We have shuttles. We make it very, very convenient. We want people to have a great experience when they come to the Oyster Fest.
Is that the town that puts that on, or is it like a Chamber of Commerce? Who's kind of the
committee, the Oyster Festival committee?
There's a committee.
Yes. Okay. And they're so good. They have so much experience. It's a committee that's been doing it year after year, and they work on it all year round. From the day they stop, they start preparing.
How can we make it better next year?
Yeah.
And when is that usually?
That's in August.
August.
Yeah. It's in August.
Well, that's great. I'm not an oyster fan, but I can go for all the other non-oyster things.
There's canoe races. There's, like I said, there's so many things, different things going on.
That's great. Yeah, we're always looking for, my daughter and wife and I are always looking for fun things to do on the weekends. So we'll have to put that on the list.
Are you Irish?
I am Irish.
Because we have
25% Irish.
The best, if not one of the best, St. Patrick's Day parades in Milford.
Oh, what makes it the best? Why is yours better than Hamden's?
Once again, it's the people. It's the committee that puts it forward.
Yeah.
All of the nonprofits participate. The schools participate. The high schools, the marching bands, the veterans. We have a great veterans organization in Milford. The fire department, the police department. It's really downtown, and the parade route is historic because it's around our green and all of the great things down there. The restaurants are great. They're open. The bars. It's just a very safe place to go. The people are friendly. It's just something that it's been building and building, and I feel like I know it draws from outside communities, outside towns and cities that may not necessarily make it to New Haven. And once again, it's the train.
Yeah. You
get off the train and you're right there.
You can't make it easier for people.
No, you can't beat that, and it's really, we have a great Irish society in Milford. They have their own clubhouse. They're very active, and they do a great job. They do a wonderful job, year after year, and that's been growing. And I'm looking forward to that.
That's awesome. Are there other kind of big town-wide events in the same kind of vein as the Oyster Festival that go on in town that you want to talk about?
We have a Boo Bash down at Walnut Beach for the kids during Halloween. I mean, we have it all.
By the way, Silver Sands is just
Silver Sands, Walnut Beach.
Yeah.
That whole area is growing. It's very engaging community down there. They have concerts, outdoor concerts at Walnut Beach under the pavilion all summer. The Milford Chamber of Commerce is outstanding. I got to tell you, we are so lucky.
I would probably, they're on my list to invite. I like having chambers come on the show to talk about their work. We just had the Hamden Chamber come on, so I will most likely for a future show have the Milford Chamber come on and talk about their work.
They really step up. They bring in a lot of music, entertainment. They find sponsors to sponsor these events, to pay for these bands, and it's all free. This is free.
Yeah,
So people pull up their chairs, they bring food, they bring drinks, and it's a great experience. And I try to attend all of them. And it starts in the summer, and it goes all summer long.
yeah, it's awesome. And I told you off air, I do spend a lot of time in Milford, even though I'm not living in Milford. I just think it's a cool place to go. It's got a little bit of everything, and
It's
my
another big draw in Milford is the Milford Arts Council. They call it the MAC, and they have performances, concerts, plays all year round. And that's at the train station. Once again, you take the train, you're there. And they have another firehouse where they have performances down at Walnut Beach.
Hmm.
And they cover both sides of the town, and they do a wonderful job. People come to Milford. They come there for entertainment.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about if I'm a young family living in Milford during like the summer. You had mentioned the parks and recreation. Do you guys have like a robust recreation program like that I can ship my kids off to in the summer?
We have, in fact, we have camps. We at Eisenhower Park, Camp Argo is a big announcement that we're about to make. We have children there. Years ago, Eisenhower Park I went there as a kid for camping. We have camps at the YMCA in Milford. We have a great YMCA in our city. So there's a lot of things for kids to do. There's hoops on the harbor. If you're basketball players, girls and boys, they can play right on the harbor.
Nice.
We have basketball courts right there. That goes on all summer long. We have great baseball, great softball. We have championship baseball teams, boys. The girls softball team, made it as far as Williamsport one
Oh, wow.
year. And we are so, so lucky. We have great, great things for kids to do.
That's awesome. Is there, I like to ask mayors this because I find that a lot of towns offer services that at least like the mayor feels like is underutilized. Do you feel like there's anything in Milford that you wish more people would take advantage of, a program you have or whatever it is, whether it's like a senior center or, is there something that you kind of want to talk about that you wish more people knew about and used?
I think the secret's out.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Then you're doing a good job.
Speaking of senior center, we have a senior center that draws seniors from Orange, West Haven, Stratford.
Wow.
There's a lot of programming there. It's a great center. I visit there frequently. They have beauty pageants.
Wow. I have to reach out to them. I actually, part of my job at the water company is going to talk to people. I love talking to senior groups because they just don't hold back.
They have the wisdom.
Yes.
And they share their stories, and I appreciate that. And, Milford, another project, speaking of seniors that I'm working on as mayor, is I'm looking to build a 55 older residential retirement community near the golf course. And I envision it being there because our seniors are very active. It's almost like a golf cart community. They can go right to the public golf course, as I mentioned before. It would be right next to that with a buffer. Across the street is the tennis courts, the pickleball courts, the splash pad for the grandkids, the miniature golf for the grandkids, the park, the walking trails. There's even a dog park.
So it's all right there. All self-contained.
Exactly. So I really, and being the mayor, people have reached out. People want to stay in Milford. They actually want to retire in Milford. There's a lot of people that are overhoused. The value of their house is significant. They would love to sell it. and then downsize into one of these senior communities, 55 and older communities, and live out their golden years in Milford.
So earlier in the show, we talked about all the awesome things that you're doing to kind of get people excited about Milford. Can you talk a little bit about, and you can be as specific as you want, some like recent business development or new businesses coming into town, what folks in Milford and even outside of Milford could look forward to in the next year or two as far as new and exciting businesses?
Yeah, that is exciting. I come from a family business, as I mentioned earlier. Through my family business, I had the opportunity to visit my customers and see different types of businesses. One of the big things, one of the standout businesses that's coming is Wusthof Knife Company,
Really?
a German knife company.
Yeah, they just bought whose headquarters? I thought
Subway.
Subway, that's right.
So you talk about renewal, you talk about, development. Bob Cinto, who is a big developer from Shelton, had the foresight to purchase first he moved Subway headquarters to Shelton, but then he purchased their property in Milford, and it was office space. And we all know office space is struggling.
Yeah.
So it was empty office space. He knocked it down, and he's building this state-of-the-art, over 100,000 square feet of warehouse space. Wusthof is moving from Norwalk. They have 3 separate buildings, and they're going to consolidate in Milford, and they're going to occupy this building. So we're bringing jobs to them. But not only that, at the same time, we're repurposing this space that is not being utilized. So it affects, when you have an empty office building as a mayor, it affects your grand list because those taxes are driven by occupancy.
Are they really?
They're revenue generating.
Ah.
So if these landlords don't have tenants that are paying the rents, if these buildings are half empty or 3/4 empty, they're paying less taxes. So we were very fortunate enough because of the 95 corridor. You have to remember, Milford has 5 exits off of 95. That draws business. That draws commerce. People want easy on, easy off. So this was a parcel of land that was purchased. The office building has been knocked down, putting in Bob Cinto, to his credit, brand new warehouse. He has leased it. This company's moving in. It's going to create jobs. Hopefully, we're going to gain some residents that want to live in Milford because they want to be closer to work. It's going to help with our restaurants when these people want to go out to lunch. They want to have a gathering. It's all right there. So I'm really excited about it. And then we have a lot of businesses that are growing their footprint. FCP Euro is a foreign parts distributor who's in Milford, who's going to be moving across the street where Bob Cinto owns property. He's building another new facility so they can grow their business. They're going to be bringing in more people, hiring more people, creating more jobs. And we have a great industrial base. People don't realize that in Milford. We have Bic, we have Schick. We have some big businesses, and we're able to add to them. And that helps the overall tax base.
Absolutely. The ratables. Yeah, it helps everybody. But does Wusthof have a timeline?
So it should be, sometime this year, hopefully, by the summer.
That's awesome. And as a amateur home chef, Wusthof knives is the dream. Yeah. For me, that's the dream, is to get a good set of Wusthof knives. One day we'll get them. So you mentioned restaurants, and I also always like to give mayors a chance to talk a little bit about the food scene in their town. I've eaten at a few restaurants in Milford. You got a pretty good food scene in town.
Yeah, right? Very diverse.
Yeah, Dockside is one I like going to.
We certainly have Dockside. We have Stonebridge. We have Founders Place. We have Ridge House. Don Rene is a small taco restaurant downtown. We have Italian. We have Fratelli's. Mediterranean food now. We have a Mediterranean restaurant on Bridgeport Avenue that just opened. Argentinian food. It's really a whole host.
Yeah.
Jamaican. I've done so many ribbon cuttings, and it's really a pleasure for me to see people that want to invest in Milford, that want to see their dreams come true and opening a restaurant, seeing that the restaurant's full and that they're, doing, good business. I just want to build on it. We have another project that will be done by the spring or summer, and that's that parking garage. I don't know if you noticed it on River Street. It's a mixed-use building. What that's going to do, Kevin, it's going to enable 200 more cars to park, to bring more people that want to drive to Milford and spend the night there, because parking has been a challenge. So this parking garage is the catalyst to the growth.
Nice.
So we recognize that. I'm hoping that it's going to attract, more business, more retail, more shopping, because they look at these businesses, they do studies, want to know where are my customers going to park.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so funny,
and it's free parking.
That's even better. I'll take my team out to lunch every once in a while, and I always say pick a place, but make sure there's parking. 'Cause especially if you pick a place in New Haven. No knock on New Haven, but sometimes it's hard to park, at restaurants in New Haven. So that's my one caveat. We can go to any restaurant as long as I can park.
Milford's got great ice cream too. We got a lot of great ice cream places.
We're going to ask an ice cream question in a little bit, actually. So actually, and that's actually a good segue, because I do, with the time we have left, want to turn to the 5 unrelated questions. These are questions that are completely unrelated to anything we've talked about before, but they help us to get to know you a little bit better. Mm-hmm. So we'll start with, do you have any pets?
I do. I have a small dog. Marco is his name. Shih Tzu. I love animals. I grew up with animals. Always had a pet growing up. German Shepherds. My father actually loves dogs. Reads German Shepherds.
Oh, wow.
That's his love, his hobby. So I come from.
So how's he feel that you have a Shih Tzu? Quite the divergence from a German Shepherd to a Shih Tzu.
My wife has some say in that as well. The dog doesn't shed.
That's a big plus. I have a cat that you just see tumbleweed of fur,
and he's a good boy, and he likes to jump up and watch TV. He's a
nice. How old is he?
Actually, Kevin, he's slowing down. For his age, he's in great shape, but I hate to see it, but he's 17.
17. Wow.
Yeah, we got him when the kids were younger. And but he's hanging in there.
Good.
He's hanging.
Good. It's okay if he's a little slower. As long as
we
healthy.
Take care of him. We
just lift him onto the couch.
That's all.
That's all. Yeah, my cat's 13, and now instead of jumping on the couch, we'll just sit and stare, and you look at you like, you know what I want. So we pick them up, all 5 pounds of them. Who is your favorite musician or band?
So I grew up in the 80s. So, it's hard to say, because there was so much music back then. There was so many, influences back then. I enjoy, 80s rock, the ballads, Journey. I really like Journey.
Big Journey
Steve
guy.
Perry.
Yeah.
I've seen them in concert, growing up.
You saw when Steve Perry Journey?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I used to go to the New Haven Coliseum.
Oh, wow.
I've seen Bon Jovi in the New Haven Coliseum. That was the thing to do when I was growing up. It was go to a concert. And I took full advantage of that. We used to go to Hartford. We used to go to Haven. I used to go to Toads. I've seen great shows at Toads.
When you said 80s rock, I was hoping you would say Duran Duran, only because I have had 3 people in here who pledged their undying love to Duran Duran, and I in my mind, I'm like, if he goes Duran Duran, that's just going to be unbelievable.
So I just want to share this with you. So in the 80s, I'm an MTV kid, and I grew up watching Duran Duran, and I do have a lot of respect for Duran Duran. I do enjoy their music. And it's a great sound. It's a great band. So I like different types of music. Duran is one of them.
Yeah, I'm a big 80s guy too. Folks Asia, yeah. You could do a whole concert of just geography bands. Asia, Europe,
Yeah.
Kansas, Boston.
I saw Genesis in Hartford with Phil Collins.
Wow.
That was another great band.
So I saw Phil Collins in concert once, and I had 13th row tickets, and he came off the stage during Susudio and stood right in front of us and held the mic up to us. So I tell people I got to sing with Phil Collins. Yeah, that was a cool show. Folks who listen to the show know I used to work backstage security for a concert venue, so I spent 3 years. I did 400 bands in 3 years.
It's a great
experience. So I worked a lot of Journey concerts, but it was not Steve Perry Journey. It was after
Arnell?
Steve. Yeah, no, it was a guy named Steve Algieri. So between Perry and Arnell was Steve Algieri, and he was very good. He sounded like Steve Perry. But yeah, I love that question because I love talking about music. I can talk.
I go to Bridgeport now.
So the concert,
REO Speedwagon, big fan.
So the concert in Bridgeport that I'm begging my wife to go to with me is Toto. Men at Work, and Christopher Cross.
There you go.
Yes.
Sailing.
Yes. and Men at Work, their lead singer, Colin Hay, I saw him in concert years ago, and he was fantastic. So I do want to go see the Toto thing. And if you like that kind of music, there's a great documentary called Yacht Rock. It's all about Michael McDonald, Christopher Cross. It's really good. Anyway, next question. What is your favorite hobby? So when you're not being mayor, what are you doing?
So that's funny because I'm doing it now. My hobby was always public service. I was in a family business and my hobby was public service. It was serving on the Planning and Zoning Board. It was being on the Board of Aldermen for 16 years. And, it's like now it's what I do every day. That was my hobby.
So no golf, no...
I do everything. I'm very active, but I would say that was a hobby that it started out as a hobby. And now, it's kind of a labor of love.
Nice. That's great to hear. Cookies, brownies, or ice cream?
Ice cream all the way.
What flavor?
Well, I like, when I go, it's got to have some peanut butter in it. Vanilla. I like vanilla, but I like that whole Reese's.
Okay. So like a peanut butter ripple kind of thing.
Yeah. Chocolate sauce, hot fudge. Remember getting the Reese's Pieces Sundae at Friendly's in Milford growing up and going to the Milford Rec. We had the arcade there. Those were the days.
Nice. I'm an ice cream guy too. Brownies are a close second.
Okay.
Last question in the unrelated questions. Who was your favorite teacher in school and why?
I was going through there. I would say I've had more than, but the one that probably stands out the most is, his name was Mr. Quirk. He was my 5th grade teacher. He was a big guy, tall guy, but he was like a big teddy bear, and I think at an early age, I realized that, just because you were big, and, there was passion about him and the way that he taught us, it really, touched me. He really took the time. He was a man that was, really interested in sports, really interested in you as a person and, out of the classroom. And I think that connection resonated with me. And when I speak to educators and I give, when I speak to them, I always share that experience with my teacher because I think that Mr. Corkery taught me that, it's just like the people that I work. You got to get to know people for who they are outside of what you're doing. And he was just like a gentle giant. He was just this guy that really took the time to have a question, spent extra time with you. If he thought or he looked at you and he thought that you weren't so sure about something or a little confused, he sensed that.
Yeah.
He picked up on
like that teacher's intuition.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what made it special for me. Unfortunately, he's not with us anymore. But that's if I was going to be a teacher, that's the kind of teacher.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I've said it before. I love asking that question because teachers, I don't know that teachers have a full appreciation for the impact they have on lives. I mean, I'm in my mid 40s and I could sit here for 2 hours and tell you about the teachers that impacted my life. And probably to them, I was just another kid passing through the class. But, I love giving folks a chance to kind of talk about their teachers because I think everybody has at least one teacher that they carry with them into adulthood, So that is the end of our 5 questions. My last question for you, Mayor. If anybody is looking to move to the area, besides the top quality tap water that you get in Milford, in 60 seconds, how would you convince them to move to Milford and not one of your neighboring towns?
I would say the benefit of moving to Milford is it offers the historic charm of the downtown. It offers the shoreline, the beaches, the harbor downtown. It offers, the amenities, investment that we made in amenities. We have great schools. If you're going to raise a family, you can't go wrong. It's a very charitable community. Your kids will be exposed to charities that give back. Everybody in the community gives back. And I think that's what makes Milford strong. I always say it's the people. Milford people are the best. In my opinion, Milford is the best city in the state because of the people.
Well, there you have it. Milford people are the best. Mayor, thank you for joining us today. And if there's one thing I want our listeners to take away from the show, the thing that I'm going to take away is in Milford, the folks who live in Milford have a mayor who, what I've come to realize, really loves this job. And from the first 2 minutes of this interview, I could tell how much you love your job. The fact that your favorite hobby is your job.
I love Milford.
You love Milford. and it sounds silly, but I've met elected officials who really don't love their job and don't really love the town that they're mayor of. They do it for other reasons. But it oozes from the second you ask that first question. Why are you mayor? So take away from that the mayor of Milford, he loves his job and he loves Milford and he works every day to make sure he's improving the lives of people in Milford. So you've been listening to Liquid Lunch with the Regional Water Authority. And today we did learn all about Milford. If you missed any portion of today's show, you can always look us up on YouTube, New Haven Independent Liquid Lunch on YouTube. You can rewatch the whole show. So we will close the show by raising our big glass of tap water and having a toast to our friends and family. Tap water, less than a penny a gallon. Can't go wrong. So join us in 2 weeks for another new edition of Liquid Lunch. Thanks.